Okay, so we are going to do our practice problems that were assigned for section 7.2, where we will be doing the table method and the FOIL method for multiplying binomials. All right, so if you see my screen here, I went into, well, in the back office, well, I guess you would have to go into your Just for Students area. And when you go into that back area and you look for your Big Ideas math book, that's where I pulled this information from. In addition to that, there were packets that I gave out before the break, and there were packets available at the school. And if you cannot access the book online and you cannot get the packet, everything is still okay. So what I've done was I took the examples that we'll be doing in the book, which are here or in the packet, on page 366 and page 367. So those were some problems they assigned in the last video, numbers 1 through 4, and then numbers 5 through 9. I pulled them right out of the book and put them into this page for us. So if you don't have any of that in front of you, feel free to just grab a piece of paper and follow along. These are the only questions that are going to be due. All right, so let's get right into this. So the directions that I gave were to, let me just pull this up here. Oh. We're not going to use this regular distributive property. We're going to use a table, the table method for all 4 of these. All right, so that's an important little direction there. If you already did the work and you sent it to me another way and you did the distributive property, that is just fine. You get credit for doing the work. All right. So the first thing I always want to do is rewrite the problem. Okay, so I just wrote down number 1, recorded it right here. And because I'm doing the table method, I'm going to go a little bit slow on the first one for the practice, and then we'll speed it up a bit for numbers 2, 3, and 4. Okay, so I have a binomial, y plus 4, so I'm going to put y plus 4. And I'm going to put lines like that. And then I have a binomial y plus 1. So I come over here and put y and then a 1. And I go like that. Voila! I have a table. Okay? And so what I'm doing is I'm matching up again everybody in their respective boxes where they would meet up. So this y and this y make up this first box, which means y times y. So y times y is y squared. All right, y squared. So the way we found that is this would be to the power of 1 and the power of 1, and anytime we multiply exponents, we're going to add them. Hence, we get the 1 up here, the 1 up here, 1 plus 1 is 2. So I have a y squared. All right? And so now I go immediately over to the next box, which now still has y times up top a positive 4. So y times positive 4 is just 4y. So I'm going to put 4y in that box. Okay? Now I'm going to work downward. So this y comes down to this box and this 1. So whenever you have a 1 times y, it's just going to be 1y, or you can leave it as just y. I like to put the number in front, the coefficient in the front there. And then the last one is this 4 comes down and this 1 comes across, and that means 4 times 1, which is just the number 4. Okay? All I have to do is clean up my answer now, where I have y squared. And I'm going to pull that out of this box here. There's nobody in all of these answers for him to combine with, so we cannot combine any like terms right there. So y squared is on its own, cross them out, done. And because I want to continue on in standard form, I'm going to go with the next set of y's. I know in my last example I worked with this number out here first, but really for standard form I just want to go from left to right. So 1y is what I see here, and 4y. Well, when I combine 1y and 4y, I get 5y. And it's not negative, because all I said was 5y. So you just put down plus 5y, takes care of those. And the last term I have in here that cannot combine with anybody, he has no other term to combine with, is just a 4. So my answer is y squared plus 5y plus 4. All right? So that's number 1. done. I like to cross my stuff off as I do it. It makes me feel a sense of accomplishment. You should try that when you do your work, especially if you think there's a lot of work to do. If you cross off as you go, it makes you see that you're getting a lot of it accomplished, and that positive reinforcement feels very good to most people. Take pride in your work and be happy when you're accomplishing it. Okay, so this funky thing I did here is a Z. I like to put a little line through my Z so you know the difference between Z and 2. All right, here I don't write in italics, so I couldn't write it like that. So Z minus 2 times Z plus 6. So again, I'm going to use my table format, and each time I'm going to show you a little bit more how I make it easier for myself. Oh my goodness gracious, look at that. Okay, boom. I really am having a hard time writing a combination of Z's and 2's. Alright, so we have Z, and then we have a minus 2. Put a line through it. And a line over here. And then I have Z plus 6. I'm going to put Z. And then I'm going to put a 6. Line through it. Line up top. Perfect. Whew. So I have Z times Z to go in here. That's going to be Z to the second power. I already know at the end of this there's going to be nobody that he can combine with, so I automatically come down here and write Z to the second power. Okay? So now we have a negative 2, and this Z comes across. Well, negative 2 times Z is negative 2Z. I'm going to hold that off just for one moment. So I'm going to work with this Z. So this Z comes down, this 6 comes over, 6 times Z is 6Z. Now I know that these two are both going to be terms that end with the variable Z. So what I can do is combine those right now. So I have 6Z minus 2Z. Well, 6 minus 2 is 4Z. Since it was not a negative answer, it's just a positive answer, I put plus 4Z. And now my last box, which is kind of missing here, is just going to be the multiplication, the product of the last two. So 6 times negative 2. So that would have come down and this would have come over. Negative 2 times 6 is negative 12. So there's my trinomial answer, which would be Z squared plus 4Z minus 12. All right? So let's clear that screen and go to the next set. So listen, one is done, cross it off. I'm going to cross it off with a fat pen. Oh my God, really? Boom, there we go. Got him. Boom, that's done and that's done. I don't even know. I'm not even good at this, I swear. Okay, there we go, boom. Now it's crossed off for real, for real. All right, very much halfway there on this page, that's awesome. Yes, we have another page, but that's okay. We're moving fast. Okay, so how can I do this more quickly without all this extra steps? You really can't. But instead of rewriting this time, I see P plus 3, so I'm going to say P plus 3, line, P minus 8, P, and then, oh, this is the first time we had a minus on this side. All right, so I have my little grid in there. So my P plus 3 was here, but my P minus 8, don't forget, you're going to have that little minus sign right there. We want to make sure that that's literally the most important part to make sure. So I'm going to keep that arrow pointed there for us. So P times P, again, P squared. You're going to put P squared. I write it off to the bottom. Now, I have 3 times P is 3P. Then on this box over here, I have P times negative 8, or negative 8 times P is negative 8P. And I want to combine those right now. So I have negative 8 plus 3. So it's not just 8 plus 3. It's like if you were down 8 and you had to come up 3, we still didn't make it all the way back up to 0 yet, so we're still more negative. So the rule says is you're going to subtract them and keep the sign of the biggest number. So we're talking about just the numbers themselves. The absolute value 8 minus 3 is 5. And since 8 was bigger, I have to take the negative sign, so negative 5. So negative 5P. All right, that was this work right here. And then my last one, I have a 3 and still this -8, but again, we're multiplying because we're filling in that last box. So again, if you have a negative times a positive, they are not the same sign. So the rule is if they are the same sign, it's positive when you multiply and divide. That's all you need to know. So are they the same sign? No. So that means they're not positive. They're negative. So -24 because -8 or 8 times 3 is 24. So your answer here is p squared minus 5p minus 24. Last one, r, and then I have a -5, line and line. Ooh, look at that, a 2r. They threw a fancy one at us. 2r and a -1, line and line. Don't let that trip you up. We're doing the exact same thing. So rather than having, well, we know that r times r is going to be r squared. So what goes in front of the r squared? We had a 2 times nothing in front of there. Technically a 1, so it's just 2 times 1 is 2. So it's 2r squared. And so, let's see, I have a -5 and a 2r. So here, I don't have an r on the end of that -5, but that's okay, because when we multiply and divide, that doesn't matter. So we have 2 times -5 is -10, and that has an r on it. We keep that one in my mind and circle it for a moment. And then I'm going to work on this r term, which is -1 times r. These two is -1r. Now we saw something like this in the teaching or lesson video before, so I want you to think for a second, what happens when I have -1r minus 10r? Or if I say it flip-flopped, I'd say -10r minus 1r. So we have a negative number and subtracting. So remember I said my trick is just minus, minus, stays minus. So there's a little bit of just memorization there. So if it's a -1, which is like a -1, and a -10, which is a -10, it just stays in the minus direction to make -11. So -1 and -10 becomes -11 when you put them together. The r stays along for the ride. I took care of those terms. This term was done earlier. And here I have -5 times -1. So remember when we were talking about our multiplying rules, so this is why it's so important to really remember the rules for multiplication and for integers, for all of these things. Okay? So if they are the same sign, when you multiply or divide, then your answer is positive. So here I have a -5 times a -1. Well, are they the same sign? They're both negative, means yes, they're the same. So my answer is positive, and it'll be a +5 because 5 times 1 is 5. It's literally that simple, okay? So +5 goes on the end here, and my final answer is 2r squared minus 11r plus 5. All right? So those were all of the examples using tables. Good job. Way to persevere and keep up the excellent good work. But there were also numbers 5 through 8 to do. All right. Now, if you've done all of these, fantastic. I'm proud of you. If you're just looking back and checking your answers, excellent. If you've missed something and you want to cross it off and say, oh, I got that one wrong, put a little note to yourself, why did you get that one wrong? And then that puts it in your mind so you can remember when you see that again on another question or in the middle of a word problem on another type of maybe test question even, you can remember you're used to making that mistake so you can catch your mistake in advance, okay? So if you did some of the work already and you're checking your work by watching over the video, notice the areas where you did great and give yourself great credit for it, and notice the areas where you might have made a mistake or didn't think something through, and make a mental note or write a little note on the paper, okay? That'll really help you to remember how to get them right consistently next time, all right? Okay, so this page here says to use the FOIL method. So I'm going to ask you in one of the journals this week, which method do you like better and why? Okay, so is it going to be the table method or is it going to be the FOIL method? You'll have to tell me why. And a sneak peek or spoiler alert, you will have to make up your own question. Okay? So here, I'm just going to rewrite m minus 3, in parentheses there, and m minus 7. So what I like to do for this one, when I do first outer, inner, and last FOIL method here, for this one, I'm just going to remind you what we do with the first. So it's going to be m times m, because those are our first terms in the binomial. So m times m is m squared. And then the O part of it is the outer terms. So remember, we have the terms on the out. That's an m is on the outside. And what other term is on the outside? If you said 7, you are wrong, because it's negative 7. So that's okay. Always remember the sign is in front of the number. So m times negative 7 is negative 7m. And then we have our I, our inner terms. So that's going to be these two right here snuggled next to each other. They're in the center. All right, so that is a negative 3 times m, which is negative 3m. And then our last term. So the last terms are, again, the last in each binomial. So that's the 3, negative 3, and the negative 7. All right, both of those are negatives. Are they the same sign? Yes. Same sign means they are positive. And 3 times 7 is 21. As always, there's going to be something that has to combine. Not always, but most of the time. There's going to be something that has to combine. When they don't combine, usually what's going to end up happening is they just cancel each other out. Okay, you'll see that soon. So here I have m squared and minus 7 or negative 7 minus 3m. If you notice, it's minus, minus, stays minus. So negative 7 minus 3 is negative 10m, because that's the variable on those terms. And then plus 21, there was nothing for that 21 to combine with. All right, so m squared minus 10m plus 21. Let's go over to number 6. So number 6 is x minus 4 times x plus 2. So I think you're getting the hang of it. This time I'm not going to write out the F, O, I, and L. I'm just going to use what I call rainbow lines. So x and x go together. X times x is x squared. And I know my outer terms. I start right back with this x and go x to the 2. X times 2 is 2x. So plus 2x. Now I want to do my inner term. So it's my first, my outer, and my inner term. So mini rainbow right there. So negative 4 times x is minus 4x. And then I have this right here, the last term. Sorry. So negative 4 times positive 2. Are they the same sign? No. So it's not positive, it's negative. So minus or negative, and then 4 times 2 is 8. All right. Again, get a little mini math problem in the center of that polynomial there, which says plus 2x minus 4x. So if you are not good with these integers by now, you really have to see previous videos, and you really got to get up to speed on adding and subtracting positive and negative numbers. So I'm going to take the 4 minus 2 is 2. The 4 was the bigger absolute value number, was a negative, so my answer is a negative. So positive 2x minus 4x is negative 2x. And over here, I still have x squared in front of it and minus 8 in the back of it. So x squared minus 2x minus 8. I don't know why is my dog crying so much. What's the matter? Okay, so that is number 6. Let's go back on to number 7. Oh, great. Why did I assign that one, huh? What? Fun. Everybody's favorites. Fractions and negatives all together. All right, so u minus 3 halves. All right, let's have fun. Okay, so the first terms, here we go. We have 2u times u, 2u times u. I'm getting ahead of myself because fractions are really exciting to me. So it's going to be 2u squared. That's a pretty u right there. All right. Now, here we go. The outer terms, I have 2u times negative 3/2. So it's okay to come out here and do this. Negative 3/2. All right. The first thing I know is that our answer is going to include a u. All right. So you can put the u. Don't worry about the rest about that. You can cross that off. How in the world do you multiply fractions? Multiplying fractions is actually one of the easiest things to do because you can turn any whole number into a fraction just by putting it over 1. So boop, boop, just like that. And then you just multiply across the top and multiply across the bottom. So 2 times negative 3 is negative 6, and 1 times 2 is 2. We can simplify our answer by saying negative 6 divided by 2 is negative 3. So I have negative 3u. All right, so when I do fractions, I always go off to the side, do a little math problem off to the side. That way I'm not doing it in my head and making a very simple little mistakes. All right, so we can get rid of that. Boom. All right, so that was our first. Then we had our first, outer, and now we have to do inner. So inner is not as much work as you think it is. Oh my gosh, there we go. Because it's 1/2 times u. So what is 1/2 times u? It's just 1/2 u. I really, really want the black marker. There we go. Plus 1/2 u. That one I didn't have to pull off to the side because there weren't additional numbers that I was going to have to multiply the numerators and the denominators and reduce and all that. Okay? So that was very good. And then our last terms. Oh yeah, it's your birthday. We're doing math like it's your birthday. So these, you may want to pull them off to the side if you don't feel like you can accurately do them in your head. So you have 1/2, which is positive, times a negative 3/2. So do you remember what I said? We just multiply across the top and multiply across the bottom. There's nothing to be nervous here. So 1 times negative 3 is negative 3, and 2 times 2 is 4. Negative 3/4. That's it, literally. So I'm going to write minus 3/4. All right? So here, I have a 2u squared. Here, I have a minus 3/4. Just like in all my other problems. However, here I have negative 3u plus 1/2 of a u. So here, when we deal with things that have to do with halves, you can really estimate this stuff in your mind. If I have 3, or let's say negative 3, we'll just imagine the other way. If I have 3 and I take away a 1/2, I'm going to have left 2.5. Like if I have $3 and I take away $0.50, I'm going to have $2.50. So just flip it on the other end. If I have negative 3 and then I add back a 1/2, then I'm going to go up to negative 2.5. Okay, so so it's going to be minus 2.5 u. I'm going to leave that in that form right there because everything we started with was in a fraction form, so I'm not going to change anything to a decimal like 2.5 or negative 2.5. All right, so that was your scariest one on the page. Congratulations for your super success. So your answer was 2u squared minus 2.5u minus 3/4. Okay? In this last problem, there's an example we have not seen yet, but I know that you will, is that the gray? I know you will make your way through it. And this one is n plus 2 in our first binomial times n squared plus 3. And the only thing different is in every problem so far, we've seen just variables just with a raised to the power of 1 or not raised to any power, basically. And here we have an n raised to the power of 2. No problem. We're just still going to do our first terms, which is n times n squared. So remember, we can't just go and put n squared like we've been doing on all of our other problems. We have to take into account that this is a power of 2, And this has a power of what? If you said the number 1, you are correct. So 1 plus 2 is n to the power of 3. Okay, n to the 3rd power. So that's super important because the rule, again, has to be memorized. All right, we do enough of these, you'll remember that when you multiply exponents, you add, as if math wasn't crazy or confusing enough. Okay, all right, so we have that, and that's our first one. So now we want to do our outer. Is n times 3 is just 3n. Then our inner is 2 times n is just 2n. And then our outer is 2 times 3, and 2 times 3 is just 6. So that was the only little trick in there. Wow, I just really got that 3 pretty hard. Okay, so n to the 3rd, and 3n plus 2n is just 5n. Add those up. And our only little 6 over here, which also cannot combine with anything, gives me my final answer of n to the 3rd plus 5n plus 6. Awesome job. We're finished. That's all the work for today. I don't know how long that video is. I'll see in a moment when I shut it off. But listen, if that's all it took to accomplish your work on today, kudos. I know it was less than 82 minutes that you would have had in class, even when you combine the lesson and the video. So, and you got all the answers. Seriously? Online school sounds like it's a pretty good gig. All right, so I hope you've learned. I will be assigning IXL math with these concepts for you to practice. If you have not done that and you have access to that, I would like for you to go ahead and do it. Don't really have to do it until I put it up in the Google Classroom, which will probably be on tomorrow, Wednesday, April 15th, 2020. All right, so that's it. I hope you got all of this done. You can send me a message, let me know you did it. You can send me your answers. You can take a picture of it, some sort of a screenshot. Whatever way you can communicate and show me that you got it done, I'll accept all of that. All right, you can text me and put it on the Remind app. All right, see you tomorrow.